Hello, everybody. Is this really finally happening? Yes, it is. Welcome to the first episode of the Bud Fallbrook Show. Now that we've started, the plan is to post a new episode every week at this same day and time. And who knows? Maybe we'll go to twice a week, 3 times a week, if we find an audience. So if you want more Bud, be sure to subscribe and tell all your friends. Even though vaccines are now becoming available, the COVID pandemic is still serious business, and I hope everyone is following the advice of medical professionals and taking care of themselves and each other. We're all in this together. In other news, since the Japanese baseball season is already over, we're not going to have much Hanshin Tigers news for a while. While hopes were high for their 85th season, the results were a bit disappointing, even though they played with heart and passion. I'm already looking forward to next year. In space news, the InSight Mars lander got into some trouble when one of its drilling probes got stuck. So NASA engineers programmed it to hit itself with its own shovel. A technique I've tried a few times myself, to mixed results. And speaking of Mars landers, just this week, NASA landed the SUV-sized Perseverance rover on the Red Planet. The new rover has video and audio capability, so we'll be able to actually hear another planet. Oh, and it has its own helicopter. That's baller. And well, this past year has felt like an endless zombie march from one apocalyptic catastrophe to another. Astronomers have determined that the Earth is actually spinning faster than it has in decades. In fact, the Earth's 28 fastest days on record since 1960 all occurred in 2020. So as bad as last year was, it could have been worse. It could have taken a second longer. Another thing I'm excited about is this year's crop of new items now in the public domain. If you don't know what the public domain is, Google it. Now, this year's works include some more movies by Buster Keaton and even F. Scott Fitzgerald's masterwork, The Great Gatsby. So what does public domain mean? It means you can use it for anything you like, including short literary interludes, sure to give even the cheesiest cartoon a touch of class. Can you dig it? I knew that you could. And hey, this is exciting. Even though it's our first show, we actually have our first guest. I thought it would be a while. But thanks to our musical director and guest booker, DJ Too Old, our first ever guest is a drummer who is taking over the internet. So please welcome Bongo Cat. Bongo Cat? I was, hoping you could tell us how you got started. It doesn't talk, does it? Does it do anything else? You are killing me with this.
With 140 subscribers, were you expecting Dave Grohl?
Whatever. Stop it. I think that's about enough of our first guest. And we're just about wrapping up our first show. But first, I want to give an unpaid shout out. At the top of the show, I mentioned the Hanshin Tigers, and even if you don't consider yourself a baseball fan, Japanese baseball is fantastic and exciting, and there is no better team to root for than the Tigers. It's always been tough to find English language team news, but this season I found an awesome podcast called the H10 Podcast. I'll have a link to it down in the show notes. So I think that wraps it up for me and DJ Too Old today. I hope you make a habit of watching us every week, and please subscribe and, of course, tell your friends. And finally, a big thank you to our benevolent corporate overlords at Blunt Farce. We appreciate them sticking with us and never giving up hope, even when maybe we did. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next week.